On HS2, I voted against the government for 10 years from when the plans were announced in 2013. I told them for 10 years that this project, A, is never going to happen, B, is going to spiral out of control on costs, and all you're doing to my constituents is giving us all of the pain for none of the gain, and you're blighting us, and it's never going to happen anyway. And it took them 10 years to come round to the idea that it had to be cancelled north of Birmingham. And if they hadn't already started drilling the tunnels under the Chilterns, they would have cancelled that bit as well, because they can't actually get it into Euston Station anyway. So it's never, ever going to work. Some of my political opponents are saying that I made money from HS2, because I'm actually the only MP had to sell his house to HS2. My rather splendid house I had at the time in Appleby Magna, an 1805 rectory of some 12,000 square feet, a modest 9-bedroom, 10-bathroom property in 14 acres. They robbed everybody along the line on the property. This is another huge fraud, which I'm exposing. So I paid 2.1 million for that house in 2010-11 and 110,000 stamp duty, and I paid 100 grand for the fixtures and fittings because it was all revamped. So it owed me 2.31 million. I then spent 150,000 putting the stable block in and the menage for my then wife, and so it owed me 2.46 million. 5 years later, HS2 gave me 1.89 million for that house. So it had dropped about 25%, according to them. And I didn't even negotiate with HS2 myself. I used consultants. I didn't think it was right as an MP that I negotiated with HS2. So I paid some consultants 25 grand to do the negotiations for 18 months with HS2. And then I got them to explain to me how the system works. And then I saw how they were fiddling everybody. And I said, at the end of the 18 months, I said, look, great, you've got this deal for me to sell the house to HS2, but I'm not happy with the price. How does that work? And these consultants said, well, it works that you give us another 10 grand. We talked to HS2 for 6 months. They never changed the price. So our recommendation to you, Andrew, is you just take the money. The way it works when you sell to HS2, and this was the same system all the way along the line from Euston all the way up as far as it was planned to go, is that HS2 present you a system that appears fair, and I will explain the psychology of how they swindle everybody. So they've got a list of 10 valuers. They're all London named. They're all London offices, but they're names you might know, like Savills, Knight Frank, 10 quite big estate agency firms, and it's all the London offices. So you've got no personal link to them. And you, as the householder or the business holder or the landowner, that they want to buy that field or that factory or that house, you get to choose one of those valuers, and they will come and value your property. And HS2 choose another one off the list, and they come and value your property. And if they're within 10%, they split the difference and say, that's what we're going to pay you. And that sounds fair, doesn't it? But what you have to remember and think about is that as the householder selling, you're only going to ever, when you picked them off that list at random, because you don't know who they are, you've done everything you can for them, and they're going to get paid by HS2 to that valuation. But they want to be the one that HS2 chooses every time, because every time there's a transaction, HS2 get to choose someone off the list. The project was already spiraling out of control from the very beginning. The only thing they could squeeze people on is what they paid for the land and the buildings along the route. HS2, do you think they chose the firm who put the highest price in for a property or the lowest price as their next first choice? So the pressure was always on the valuers to be the lowest. It was a race to the bottom. So whatever one firm put in, the other firm wanted to put in less, so that HS2 would choose them next time. And I had this out with the minister, with all the HS2 ministers, and explained to them the psychology of how this works. That you will always be driving the market down to the very bottom because the people are competing to be the one that you're going to choose. And they said that isn't how it worked. I said, well, in that case, release the data to me. You've got 10 valuers on this sheet. If it's completely random, you've done thousands and thousands and thousands of transactions. You'll have used them all 10% of the time because it's random. They refused to tell me how many they would have had their favourites, the ones that were putting the lowest prices in. They refused to ever show me the data. And that's how they've stolen land, buildings, property, all the way up the line. And even if you've got a compulsory purchase order, your only right is to buy it back now it's all been cancelled, at the market price. But I put it to you that they never paid the market price at the time for the properties that they bought. And that is another scam.